Community Connect is a public service presentation of WayFM. Join us each week at this time as we engage in topics of conversation affecting our communities.
Well, welcome to Community Connect. I'm Ryan Trotter with Bree from Faithful Friends with me in studio here. And first of all, Bree, thanks for coming on. Appreciate this.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah. So tell me, I guess we'll just get right to it. Tell me about Faithful Friends. What is it? And we all know what a friend is. We all know what Faithful Friend is. It's somebody that's going to be with you through thick and thin and all that. But what word? First of all, tell me where that name came from and what Faithful Friends is all about.
Yeah, well, you kind of stole my thunder because you just explained where it came from. So the goal, really what we do, our mission is to cultivate mentor relationships and inspire growth, resilience, and hope. So we are founded as a faith-based mentoring organization. So we work exclusively with local churches to find mentors and then schools and community organizations to identify kids age 6 to 9 in need of a mentor. And we ask for a year commitment, but around 70% going to a second year and around 15 to a third. So our goal is what you said, the idea of long-term faithful relationships showing up for children in need who've encountered, most of them, a great deal of adversity at an early age.
So in general, it's not going to be your traditional kid that grows up in a nice family that's taking care of his needs. It's going to be somebody that really needs some extra mentoring, as you said.
Yeah, and I can share some of like the stories, but also demographics of our kids. But in general, yeah, these kids are growing up, sometimes with still very loving parents and supportive, but about 70% are from single parent homes. So they are kids who've had an absent parent in large part, who are struggling in the situations of poverty, about 30% have a parent who's has been or is incarcerated. So we're really trying to reach some of the most vulnerable children in our community by providing a faithful friend who's going to show up once a week and be there no matter what. Isn't going to be a person to come and leave their lives, but really to be present as they grow.
Well, I would think the kids that would be involved in this are kids that have had people come and go.
Exactly.
And they're there and, oh, great, everything's now all of a sudden they're taken away. So providing that stability.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. That's exactly it. There's these books I love. I have a 6-year-old myself. So there's some well-known authors of books like No Drama Discipline or The Whole Brain Child, and they have a book also called The Power of Showing Up. And they say that the greatest scientific predictor of how any child turns out in terms of all these different categories, it's like job, educational success, and mental emotional health, is whether one adult in their life consistently showed up for them. So that's what we're aiming at, is like that sort of scaffolding around a child, knowing that it will impact their long-term trajectory of their life. So.
Let's go back and tell me about Faithful Friends. How did this get started? How did how did everything come to be?
Yeah, absolutely. So our founder is a man by the name of Duncan Campbell. His story was growing up in a home of 2 alcoholic parents. He was found wandering the street before the age of 5, looking for his parents when he woke up in the middle of the night and they were gone. So that was his sort of upbringing. But he had a teacher and a coach and people who believed in him, and he was a resilient kid. And he became a very successful businessman, made a lot of money, actually. And so with that, his goal was, I want to reach the kids who grew up like I did. And so initially he started an organization called Friends of the Children, but he always felt that this was the work of the church. The church should be coming around these kids. And so that's where we were born as Faithful Friends, in partnership with Josh White at Door of Hope Church in Southeast Portland. They basically birthed Faithful Friends through the Door of Hope Church initially. It was initially actually called Door of Hope Mentoring. Okay, yeah. And then we're our independent nonprofit from the church. But so that was really the heart, is like mobilizing the church around these children in need. So that's our birth story.
Well, I love it. Well, we're talking, this is Community Connect here on 96.3 WayFM, Portland's uplifting 96.3 WayFM. And I got Bree from Faithful Friends with me. It's a Faithful Friends. You got to be careful how you say that.
It's good.
So let's give me some examples, because I know you've got, I'll throw out a couple names that you guys were talking about prior to us coming on air, and that's Patrice and Harmony. Tell me their story. Yeah,
absolutely. So Patrice is our mentor, who is just phenomenal. She comes from a church out in Gresham, and it was matched with a young mentee who, similarly to what we said, her mom struggles with addiction, and she's actually being raised with her siblings by their grandma. But grandma has her own health issues and struggles, and so we have a video that will be airing soon where she just expresses, like, I tell the kids that I want to take them out to a movie, and then I get sick and I can't, and her sense of guilt around that. And then she goes on to say, but Patrice, when she says she's going to be there, she's there. And she's able to expose my granddaughter to things that I never can, and is really opening up the world to her in a whole new way and helping her to heal and come back from like the wounds of like having a parent in addiction and the absence that's created. And so grandma just speaks to like, Patrice is changing her life. And she says those words. And they've only been matched like a year. So imagine as this relationship grows and builds, they both see themselves in each other's lives forever. Really, they both express that. So that's the kind of story like that is happening on a consistent basis at Faithful Friend. It's not the quick thing. It's the long-term investment that actually leads to like long-term transformation.
Yeah, and I think that's a big thing. So tell me about how the gospel is in us. Obviously, started with the church. Yep. Jesus is our friend. He's our best friend. We've heard that, many of us, our whole lives. So how does the gospel become? How do the Faithful Friends expose the gospel to some of these kids who haven't seen it? And does somebody need to be affiliated with? How does that work?
Yeah. So we are a faith-based organization in that our whole culture and setup is like that we look exclusively to the local church to find mentors. So our heart is really to have people of faith who know and love Jesus enter into kids' lives. Now, similarly to Jesus, and I think his model before us was this idea of incarnational ministry. He came into people's lives and he made invitations to them, but he didn't necessarily beat them up. I mean, in my opinion, he was often beating up the religious people more than the people who didn't know him, you know? So in that essence, like we're coming into their lives, hoping to be a model, an example of Jesus. And as the relationship of trust is built, that they would both share what's valuable to them, including Jesus. So, and that's a different pace for every relationship, right?
Yeah, right.
We all know that. So really that happens in time where, with consent of parents is obviously very important. We don't want to manipulate or abuse power with these kids, but that we can invite them to church, or we have donors that have sent some of our kids to Trout Creek Bible Camp. So the idea is first to be witness, like in love and action and faithfulness. And as that relationship is built, to be able to share about Jesus as it's open, open by the kids.
Yeah, and I think that's a big thing in our witnessing, just as Christians to anybody. You don't generally go up to somebody and say, Jesus loves you, and go immediately into it. Not that people don't. People have been effective in that. Yeah. And certainly if you're listening to the Spirit of God to show you to do that, then do that. But a lot of times it's you're establishing a relationship, and in that relationship, then you're able to show Christ. Sometimes what I've heard it said, if I can get this right, is that you should always be sharing the gospel, and if necessary, use words.
Yes, St. Francis of Assisi,
okay.
I think.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, and he was a man who was very involved in the lives of the poor. So, I mean, but also I believe he was a priest. So he was doing both, but also that's always a dance in every single person, right? Like how we show up for them in practical, tangible ways, and how we share about the love of Jesus. So
we're talking with Bree from Faithful Friends here on Community Connect on Portland's Uplifting 96.3 WayFM. All right. One of the things that I know growing up, growing up in the church, but in the last, 15, 20 years, I'm really young, right? 15, 20 years with Sunday school kids, and seeing a lot of Sunday school kids coming from those kinds of families that you guys are part of. One kid, one time we asked him, hey, why do you come to Sunday school? Why do you come to these events? He says, because he said there's stability here. At home, there's always upheaval, and there's arguing, there's yelling, there's fighting. But here I know that I'm going to have stability. Yeah. Tell me about Faithful Friends and how that's the stability you guys can provide that. What does it look like for a faithful friend? What are some of the things that they would do with the kid?
Yeah, absolutely. So I love that you shared that, because that's the idea, right, of the church being a place of radical hospitality to bring in. And I think Faithful Friends is like almost like the parallel to that. And then we go out to be that, the hands and feet of Jesus, and to offer invitation there. So to be that consistent faithful friend is really, we ask for just ordinary life, nothing fancy. Don't spend a bunch of money. That's actually not helpful in most cases.
Yeah, giving gifts, pouring gifts, gifts.
Exactly.
Gifts.
No. We don't want to do that. That sets up a very different relationship. But just to cook with them, to go to the park with them, to go out for a walk. Yeah. I mean, it's all sorts of things that the mentor I talked about, they paint horses together.
We
have a community partner, Echo Ranch, that's a fabulous organization that helps bring our kids out to ride their horses and that kind of thing. But they go and like paint a horse. I've never seen it in my life.
All right, so now are we talking about like painting a horse on a canvas, or are we talking about actually going to the horse and painting
on the horse?
You heard it here, faithful friends. Horse painters, yeah.
So, I mean, it's, who would come up with that?
Yeah,
but
right.
This is a unique passion. They both love animals, and who knows how that even came about. But again, it's also unique to the relationship that's formed and the interest of the people. So kayaking or fishing, again, it's like that we really encourage the mentors to say, find the interest of the child, learn them, and then help expose them to things they're interested in.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I want to ask about is how somebody could become a part of Faithful Friends. But before we do that, we're going to get to that. But give me a couple of other examples of stories maybe that you've seen where people at Faithful Friends have able to have an impact on somebody, a kid in need.
Absolutely. So we were founded in 2013. So we're coming up next year on our 10-year anniversary. Okay. So we match kids age 6 to 9. So the goal is really early intervention. So we're just kind of at the age in terms of the length of the organization that we're getting to the point where we've had some mentors and mentees who've been together a really long time, about 7 years or so. Sure. So one is the mentor's name is Rachel, and she was matched with her mentee about 7 years ago now, and it took a long time. She'll tell you, her mentee was quiet and reserved, and sometimes they'd barely even talk, and she's like, I don't know what I'm doing. Am I having an impact? Well, fast forward, this girl is now in high school at St. Mary's. They were there for her Catholic confirmation, and they've actually were invited to be her godparents, her and her husband. So it went from this relationship where it's like, this girl's very timid, where now, she's a high schooler, and they're over at family dinners and really grafted into the whole extended family. Rachel told me a story where they were invited over for dinner to her mentee's house. And the family said, this is the first time we've ever had anyone other than family over for dinner. I mean, so we're talking about life-changing, not only the mentor and mentee, but how it ripple affects families on both sides of the mentor and the mentee. So that's another little glimpse of just when these relationships last like that, they're grafted into each other's lives and call each other family.
All right. So I'm a little bit nervous. I'm not a person that goes out. I'm not good at making friends, that sort of thing. It's probably not for me. What would you say to somebody that's hearing this and says, that's great for other people. I'm happy that Faithful Friends is doing that. What would you say to somebody like that to say, hey, come alongside us and become involved with Faithful Friends? Yeah,
I would say you're not alone. I think for most of our mentors, it's a step of faith for them. It's obedience to Jesus. It's just responding to the call and the invitation. So I'll also say this. People ask the ideal mentor, which is similar to your question. And I'm like, well, it's really just the person who's ready to commit and show up, because our youngest mentor is 21 and our oldest is in his 70s.
Okay.
So it's not an age thing. My program director will consistently say some of our best mentors are people who are in retirement. And you can imagine to jump in when you're in your late 60s and 70s with a 6 to 9 year old, that's a thing. That's a big ask sometimes. But it's really just the heart of the people to love and pour their lives into a child and to include them in their lives. So I would say it's the step of faith, as all good adventures are. And that's really where it starts.
Okay. So how can somebody become involved with Faithful Friends? A website, all that stuff.
Yep. So you can go to our website. It's ffpdx.org. And there, learn more about who we are, what we do. And there's actually a link there for get involved, and you can fill out that form and express your interest. We typically actually start building relationships with churches at the pastoral leadership level, and then go that direction. But sometimes it comes through someone who's passionate about what we do, who's in the church, and they kind of introduce us to their leadership. So that would be the route. Is if you love what you're doing, I would love to meet with you. My team would love to meet with you, share more about what we do. We have a complete training session once a month, which is 6 hours of training. That's part of the vetting process for our mentors. So come to an informational meeting, learn about what we do, and we can go from there as well.
But maybe a good first start would be to go to a pastor, your pastor.
Yeah,
and say,
absolutely.
Hey, here's something I've heard about.
Yep.
Heard about it on 96.3 WayFM.
Yeah.
Faithful Friends. I think this is something that we could become involved with, and then go that route.
Yeah, that's a great idea as well.
So real quick, before we go, you guys have something coming up on Thursday, March 3rd, Be a Rock Gala.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
This is Be a Rock in a Child's Life. So it's our biggest fundraiser of the year. We haven't done it in a year and a half because of COVID.
Okay.
So we're kind of doing a hybrid event. So March 3rd in person at Door of Hope Church in Southeast Portland. 5:30 to 7:30. It's a happy hour style event, but that will be our auction, the chance to buy a raffle ticket to win a trip to Hawaii or Mexico, and just to financially support the work that we're doing here at Faithful Friends. And then also the online portion of that will launch next Thursday, February 24th. You don't have to be present to win. So anyone can bid on any of the items. We have some great weekend trips and power tools, massage for the ladies or men, you know. Yeah. But there's really a wide variety of things to bid on, and all the proceeds will go to help support more matches.
That is Bree from Faithful Friends. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thank you, Ryan.
Really appreciate this.
You've been listening to Community Connect with WayFM. Join us in more conversations each week at this time on WayFM.